and welcome to our Veterans Day Assembly. I would like to welcome our guests today, Dr. Ingrid Lardy, Senator Richard Ross, Representative Sean Dooley, Selectman Jim Lehan, School Committee Chairman Thomas Doyle, Commander Ben McCarty, and Mrs. Altamiki. And of course, above all, we want to welcome all the veterans who we have today to participate with us in this assembly. To begin, I'd like to remind all the students here about our code of respect. And we want to keep that in mind throughout the assembly today. We want to be respectful of all of our guests and of all the people that we have performing here this afternoon. To begin, I'd like to call down Jack McCready from Mrs. Trombert's room, Jack Dooley from Mrs. Trombert's room, and Sam Murphy from Mrs. McFadden's room. They are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then it'll be followed by the Star-Spangled Banner. You'll remain standing for both, and then you may sit down. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon. It's always a pleasure to be here and to share some thoughts about Veterans Day, which is a very special day. But before I add some comments, I would like to thank our veterans and their families for being here today. To the men and women, thank you very much for your service. It really is a privilege to honor the men and women who have served this great nation. As I've said many times, veterans are ordinary people who do extraordinary things. How many of you know what happened last week? Anybody? What? It was an election. Something some people like to forget. But there was an election last week, and I guess a logical question is, what does that have to do with veterans? Everything. It has everything to do with veterans. We live in a nation with the longest standing constitution in the history of the world that has ever been overthrown by a military source, ever. It is the people who live, and the military serves the people. And it's one of the great freedoms and privileges that we have as Americans. And sometimes we take it for granted. So last week we changed leadership. And no one took to the streets. Everyone celebrated, hopefully, or mourned, depending on their favorite, but it was peaceful. And it's what we have done for hundreds of years in this country, and we are so fortunate to be blessed to have that opportunity. Our ancestors knew the true meaning of those values in places like Gettysburg and Shiloh, and today in Iraq and Afghanistan. And then we learned it the hard way, by the Pentagon and the Twin Towers. They all stand to remind us that freedoms and liberties that we enjoy come with a great sacrifice. From the very beginning of this great nation, our veterans were there. They protect our liberties, they protect our rights, that they protect our very lives. But what is so unique and wondrous is that ever since the founding of this great nation, America has never lacked for individuals who are willing to come forth when the need arises to pay the price with their honor, their devotion, and if necessary, their lives. On April 14th of 2004, in Burlington, Vermont, mourners gathered for the funeral of a 21-year-old Marine, Corporal Mark Evans. He was killed in Iraq. Thousands of people attended that service in Burlington. One of the reporters of the Free Press was struck by the number of strangers that came to honor this young Marine. One of them was a young mother who brought two young children who were holding two American flags. And when asked why she'd come so far for someone she didn't even know, she said, "Every single man and woman who wears a uniform is my son and my daughter. He could have done so much with his life, but he gave it to his nation, and I'm grateful." Several years ago, thousands of us stood here in Norfolk to honor one of ours, Adam Kennedy, who gave his life for duty and honor, and to whom this very school is dedicated. One of our past presidents, Ronald Reagan, said the following about veterans: "The freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here in this land than anywhere else on earth. The price of this freedom has been high, but we have never been unwilling to pay the price. Those who say we are in a time when there are no heroes, well, they just don't know where to look. Every cross in Arlington Memorial Cemetery is a testament to the will and courage of the American soldier. We must realize that no weapon in the arsenal of the world is so formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women. It is a weapon that our adversaries do not have. It is a weapon that we as Americans do have. Peace is the highest aspiration of the American people. We will negotiate for it, we will sacrifice for it, but we will never surrender for it. Not now or ever, but we are Americans." That was said by Ronald Reagan at a Veterans Day ceremony. In closing, I'd just like to share with you that I coach the King Philip High School hockey team. And I think it's important that kids learn to give back. And this year, the King Philip hockey team is having a season-long event where we are going to celebrate and recognize the Wounded Warriors program. You'll hear hopefully a whole lot more about it. You can't see this, but there's a lapel pin that stands for the Wounded Warriors. But our entire season will be dedicated to our veterans and those Wounded Warriors who have come back from service. You probably won't remember this, but February 18th is our final game of the year. This is not a commercial for the hockey team, it's a commercial for our veterans. We're going to do something very, very special to recognize and honor those men and women who have served us. So I hope you and your parents, family members will be able to join us, because we think it'll be a very special event. So when you see a policeman, you see a fireman, you see a soldier, take a moment and just say thank you, because we're all in deep gratitude to these men and women who serve us. Thank you very much.
And next we'll have the Freeman-Kennedy Chorus sing "The Spirit of America."
All live free, great and strong.
McCarty, American Legion Post Commander.
Good afternoon. My name is Ben McCarty. I'm the Norfolk American Legion Post Commander. Last week I was down in Virginia and I took the plane down to get some training there at the Army JAG School. And what I heard in the airport made me pause and look around and think, people are not as blessed as we are in Norfolk. Because the comments I heard when I was going down basically were, why do we have Veterans Day? It's such an inconvenience, that especially when it's midweek. It's not for anyone. It was for World War I. That's over 100 years ago. I'd rather have my 3-day weekend, basically. Well, I look around here, and I see why we have Veterans Day. Norfolk is blessed to remember it. We have our veterans here have served. We have the school named after it. We understand the appreciation and the freedom of why we serve and why we have Veterans Day. It's unfortunate we have others that may disagree, but that's what makes our country great. Our veterans and our military have supported the ability for those to disagree in our own country. Also, our country is the one that people want to come to from all of the world because we have liberty here and freedom. 25 years ago today, or on November 9th, yesterday, the Berlin Wall was torn down. That wall was set up by a country that had to keep their own people in. They had to build a wall around Berlin because all the people from East Germany wanted to go into Berlin because Berlin had freedom. Think about that. Your own government walls you in because they don't want you to go someplace else. It's just mind-boggling. But here, we don't have that. We allow for the dissent and the disagreements. And why? Because our military has gone throughout the world and preserved those freedoms and have given them to others and shown hope. In World War II, we were called on with our allies 70 years ago. D-Day, June 6, 1944. We landed on France. We then marched across and fought across to Germany and conquered the evil Axis. And we gave freedom to everyone. And after we conquered that land, we gave it all back to the country in the name of liberty and freedom. 100 years ago, 1914, World War I started. November 1918, on the 11th day of the 11th hour, the 11th month, the Great War ended. It wasn't called the Great War because war is good. It's called the Great War because they hoped it would be the last war. Unfortunately, people such as ISIS, as was mentioned here with a number of students, disagrees with that. And we still need our armies and military to preserve the freedoms everywhere. 200 years ago, 1814, Battle of Fort McHenry, also known as the Second American Revolution. The British attacked again the United States. They had burned Washington, D.C., our capital. They were marching on Baltimore. They were going to attack Fort McHenry. And if they succeeded, they would have cut the nation in half, which would have then allowed them to conquer us quite readily and easily. There was a lawyer by the name of Francis Scott Key who was behind enemy lines at that time and was held captive on a British man-of-war ship during the battle. And he wondered through the night while the battle raged what was happening. Would we still be a country the next morning? When he saw the sunrise and he saw the flag over Fort McHenry there, he wrote the poem that became our Star-Spangled Banner. 4 verses that show freedom and liberty. Those are some of the events that we recall today and should remember. There are also there's a humanitarian aspect more on the military, not just the arms and going over to the other parts of the world, but right here in the United States. We have the firefighters of the military. In 1886, when Yellowstone National Park opened, the U.S. Army was called upon to fight the fires of Yellowstone National Park. They went in there, set up, patrolled the area, helped educate campers on how to prevent firefighters, and when the firefighters spread, they fought them. 1890, Sequoia and Yosemite National Parks had opened. The U.S. Army was there also fighting fires. During World War II, we had the 555th Parachute Infantry Battalion. A special group of individuals. They were the first smoke jumpers. They were assigned to the Pacific Northwest to fight the Japanese. Because what the Japanese were doing at that time was sending over balloons with bombs on them, hoping to land in our forests and set fires and burn the country. So the 555th Infantry Battalion, the Triple Nickel as they were called, was sent on a top secret mission over there, and they jumped over 1,200 times and fought over 36 firefighters. Today, their story is now starting to become public, and what the interesting thing about that battalion was is that they were a completely Afro-American unit. They may not have had freedom at that time, complete equality, but they knew what the United States stood for, and they were willing to fight for it and work for freedom for everyone. More recently, we have 2001, 9/11. Manhattan was attacked, the World Trade Center. The buildings collapsed, the U.S. Coast Guard arrived, evacuated Manhattan by water. Tremendous feat. And just this past month, the Freedom Tower has reopened. It shows America is strong. We may suffer, but we will always bounce back. So we will never forget. 2005, August 29th, Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans and the Gulf Coast. The Coast Guard responded there as well. Many consider it the Coast Guard's finest hour. The Coast Guard and the National Guard, including the Louisiana National Guard, which was coming back from Iraq, and what they thought was going to be a much-needed rest after fighting over there. They got back and were told, you have 24 hours to say hi to your families, and then we need you to go into New Orleans and Louisiana and save all the people there. Over 60,000 people were saved. Over 9,000 medical patients were evacuated. Not one military member or a Coast Guard member was injured, which is an amazing feat when you consider all the planes and the helicopters that were flying all over at that time. That is the only time in our nation that an entire military service received the Presidential Unit Citation. Today, the U.S. Army is fighting the humanitarian mission. Currently, there are 4,000 U.S. Army members in Liberia helping to set up clinics and hospitals so that they can help with the Ebola vaccine to get it out to people when that gets created. Also to care for the ones that are sick and to limit the spread. When most people think of the Army, they don't think about going to Africa to build hospitals. But that is also part of the mission, humanitarian needs. Fort Detrick, Maryland, where the U.S. Army Biological Institute is there. It's been doing research on the Ebola for many years. They have also sent doctors over to Sierra Leone to provide assistance there. So as we remember the veterans that are here today, remember all those also who are throughout the world and have served in the past, and thank them. Also, students, you may want to go home and ask your parents and your grandparents, are there any veterans in our family? If so, ask them what they did, and if necessary, do some research and share the stories with your classmates and your friends and the rest of your family. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we'll hear from the Freeman-Kennedy Advanced Band, and they'll be playing the Royal Oak March. Next, we'll hear from State Senator Richard Ross.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. It is my honor to be here amongst you today, but more than that, to be among all of you, is to be among all of them. There are true heroes today, those whose lives were interrupted at some point in their lives by the need for public service, a level that many of us don't ever get to serve. I've never had the privilege to serve in the armed forces, but certainly if I had, I certainly would know the level of commitment that it takes that you guys did, and ladies, to leave your families and homes behind and not know whether you'd be called on for higher duty that would maybe take your life. None of us have had to make that sacrifice, and we pray that we never do. But certainly, the way our country was set up for service and things that we fight for, and those freedoms that you were willing to fight for, are things that we truly appreciate, and I thank you very much. If we could just give them a round of applause. Year after year, it is hard to find inspirational words to commemorate those who have served in the armed forces. But many times we can glean from messages like Ben McCarty's, Jim Lehan's, and others, the kernels of rays of light that shine on those things that we're willing to fight for. And certainly our Constitution is one. Right here in Norfolk in colonial times, you had a captain of a militia group from Norfolk, which was North Rentham at the time, which went to Concord and Lexington on the battle. And consequently, after that, we had the Constitution for our Commonwealth was adopted, and it's now the oldest Constitution in the world, and our national Constitution was modeled on that. And if you think about it, we have the oldest Constitution in the world right here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It's a pretty remarkable statement. I had the privilege this morning of going to the town of Franklin, where they have a unique program, reading program. And these women call themselves the Crazy School Ladies. And every year they come up with a book to challenge the students to read. And this year's book was the one that was written by Hildebrand, called Unbroken. And it's the story of Louis Zambini. And Louis was actually in the South Pacific in World War II. The plane he was flying in was actually shot down, and he and his compatriots spent many days in shark-infested waters to have their rafts slowly disappear beneath their feet, think that they were being saved to be captured by the Japanese. Imprisoned, tortured, and all of the things that go along with being a prisoner of war, they made it through the war and actually returned back to the States. Mr. Zambini actually thought about his own childhood as a troubled youth and wanted to give something back. So after he healed from the war, he actually started a boys' camp in California, where he gave young men inspiration and values to live a good life and to recognize the things that we're privileged to have as American citizens. It was really an inspiration to read the book, and I only read excerpts of it, and I was given it this morning, but the story of his life was incredible, and it started to make you realize that all these people over here, should they have been so challenged, probably would have done the same thing. The American spirit, the things that we believe in as Americans, is certainly something worth fighting for, and I think we learn from those lessons. Right here in your hallway, you have a symbol of someone who gave his life for our American freedom. That's Adam Kennedy, from whom the school was named. And I think to carry a little piece of that each day in your hearts and to realize that's really what Veterans Day is all about. We also celebrate him on Memorial Day. These are the guys that came back. Adam didn't, but certainly that's a powerful symbol in your lobby. I thank you, Norfolk Schools, for putting that symbol up. I think it's one of those painful things that certainly would be easier to not have up, but I think anything that you can do to highlight the sacrifices that our veterans are willing to make is something we need to do. We need to realize just how precious our American freedoms are and how special some of our veterans are to come back from some of the horrors of war and to fulfill their dreams as productive American citizens and inspire others. And we are truly inspired by your stories as well. So thank you for your service and thank you for your stories.
And next we'll hear from our state representative, Sean Dooley.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for having me here today. I really appreciate it. It's what's so awesome about Norfolk is that we have the band and the chorus and all you guys celebrating Veterans Day and how important your veterans are. I know you guys want to get back to class, so I won't be long. Take as long as I want. Okay. I won't do that for you. But I just wanted to, real quick, I don't want to tell you any long stories. I just wanted to talk about what is a veteran. A veteran is these men and women over here, and men and women around the country, some of your fathers and mothers and grandparents, who at some point in their life signed up, raised their hand, volunteered, and said, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to protect our freedom, the United States of America, our Constitution, and the freedom for generations to come, with everything that I need to do, including my life. The reason we named this school after Adam Kennedy, because he went here. He was one of you. And he grew up and said, you know what? I care so much about our freedom. I love Norfolk, Massachusetts, and the United States of America so much that I'm going to go and fight for our country. Fight against the people who were trying to harm us after September 11th. And I will do whatever it takes. And unfortunately, Adam didn't make it home. We have these reminders of the people who made it home, including we even have a Marine Corps Lance Corporal here in uniform today. So all I would ask for you, each of you today, tonight, or tomorrow when you don't have school, as Richard said, go home, ask one of your parents if they know of someone who is a veteran, whether it's a neighbor or your grandparents or one of them, and just say thank you. That's all they want. That's the only thing they ask for. They didn't even ask for that. They were willing to do it without it. But the only thing they really need is to be thanked for putting it all on the line to protect us. And so tomorrow during Veterans Day, when you have the day off and you're sleeping in, just try to remember to do that for 2 or 3 minutes. And anytime you see any veteran throughout the year, if you see some man or woman in uniform, just say thank you. It means the world to them. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Next we have the Freeman-Kennedy Glee Club singing the song, You are our heroes.
What can you say to a hero? To someone who gives so much? What can you say to a hero? To someone who seeks life to touch? We can say thank you. Oh, we can say thank you, thank you. We know God blesses you for all you did and do. We've seen your light shine through, and we are all blessed too. You are our heroes. What can you say to a hero? To someone who's always there. What can you say to a hero? To someone who lives life to care. We can say thank you. Oh, we can say thank you. We know God blesses you for all you did and do. We've seen your light shine through, and we are all blessed too. You are our heroes. You are our heroes. You are our heroes. Thank you.
At this time, we'd ask of all the veterans who are here if they could stand up. We have representatives from 4th, 5th, and 6th grade who would like to read you thank you letters. So if you could stand for as long as you can as they read them to you so you can be recognized, that would be great. Our first reader from 4th grade is Izzy Melanson from Mr. Murray's class.
Dear veterans, thank you. We come here today to thank all the veterans of the United States for all they have done. They have fought in wars and made the United States a free country. They fought and risked their own lives for us. So today we thank you for all you have done. You are the survivors and heroes.
Next to Mr. Murray's room, Miles Gallagher.
Hello, veterans. Thank you for serving our country, for fighting for freedom. I salute to the fallen men and women that lost their lives for the United States. We all miss them. If I had a chance, I would say thank you to them. My uncle is a veteran. He fought in Iraq. I am proud of him and all of you. I hope and pray there will be world peace one day.
Representing 5th grade from Mrs. Grove's room, Molly Pillar and Polina Yakovovich.
Dear veterans, today is a very important day. Today is the day when we say thank you to those who risked their lives for our freedom. We want to say thank you because you are our heroes. And although we can say thank you, in our hearts we say much more.
We want to tell you how grateful we are for what you did for our country. We say the Pledge of Allegiance every day at school, and if you had been successful in all you did, we would not be able to do that or even have the opportunity to walk into a school. We wouldn't be able to play sports or walk freely. I know everyone here respects what you have done. If you didn't do all those amazing things, our lives would be so different. We hope you have an awesome day because this day was created just for you.
Representing 6th grade from Mr. Kavanaugh's room, Ethan Hurwitz.
Dear veterans, thank you for what you have done for our country. You stood up and fought for what was right. You never backed down from the challenge, no matter how big. You spent hour after hour working to secure each and every citizen's freedoms and rights. When others backed down, you were the ones to stay strong. I salute you for your service in the armed forces. I respect what you and thousands of men and women tried and succeeded at, making our great country safe. I think everyone should remember those who fought for us. Kids always think of heroes as sports figures and actors, but the real heroes are those in uniform who each day work to defend our liberties. We are lucky to have you defend our nation. Without you, the United States would not be what it is now. Our country is safe and protected, and we are lucky to be free. America salutes you.
And for Mr. Kavanaugh's room, Sarah Sylvester.
Dear veterans, Grazie, Mercy, Shukran, thank you for all you have done for us. You risked your life for freedom. There are ways to thank you, but no ways to repay you. You're a role model, hero, and a fighter. No matter what you did, it helped. Every step onto the battlefield brought us a step closer to freedom. If it wasn't for you, I would not have the opportunities to do the stuff I do now. Even the little things, like eating dinner with my family. I'm glad the country has people like you to look up upon as role models. Without you, people would not recognize good from bad, and the country would be in a big mess. Without freedom, we could not vote. We would not have a say in how our country is run. I wrote this letter to thank you for the emotions, fears, and challenges you went through so we could live in freedom. As I said earlier, we can thank you, but we cannot repay you for what you went through to protect our country. Thank you again. Sincerely yours, Sarah Sylvester.
And now I would like all of the letter readers to present you with a folder that has all of their thank you letters to all of you. Thank you very much. Again, thank you for all you've done for our country. You truly are heroes to all of us, and we thank you so much for being able to be with us today. Thank you. We are going to end our assembly today with the 3rd grade singing, Thank You Soldiers, and there will be an accompanying slide presentation that goes along with it. Then after that, we will have taps played by Jeremy White and Ava Gardner. I'd like to remind all of you that during taps, obviously remain silent, but also to not applaud taps. Taps is not a song that we applaud. Then please remain silent as you file back to your classrooms. Thank you for everybody for participating today.